Can I please have Alexandria Police Sergeant Andrea O'Leary join me? She will be telling us about Officer Nicky Clara's time with the Alexandria Police Department. Sergeant O'Leary has been with the Alexandria Police Department since 2003. She has worked evening patrol as a field training officer, bike patrol, firearms instructor, member of the Civil Disturbance Unit, a basic training academy instructor, defensive tactic instructor, honor guard team leader, and is currently assigned to recruiting. Sergeant O'Leary.
So I didn't even get to know Nikki very well. Last week I was asked by her, one of her best friends, Rickey, to come up here and say something for him because he didn't think he could keep it together long enough to speak to a group. A grown man, straight man, didn't think he could keep it together talking about one of his best friends who'd passed 3 years prior. That's the effect she has on people. So she first joined our department in 2012. I met her after the Basic Training Academy. I was one of our FTOs. Her assigned FTO had taken a couple days off, and I was filling in for 2 days. So I got to spend 2 days in a car riding around training Officer Clara. The way she interacted with citizens was just admirable. Answering calls for service, her people skills and common sense was off the charts. She came to us with 20 years in the Army, so she had some life experience, and she was an ideal new officer for our department. She was professional, reasonable, genuine. She was more of a friend than a rookie. In those 2 days between calls for service, in our downtime, we compared phone plans. We talked about cars we've owned over the years. She had a big Suburban. I learned how to drive on a Suburban years ago. She wasn't that much older than me, like 7, 8 years, I think. We were both Scorpios, born in November. Average size people, right? Average size female, but we had really large feet. We both wore women's size 10. So I guess pretty cool. Like, we got really good balance. She was like a big sister that I never had. Had a lot of respect for her after her years of public service, service to the country, and now she wants to continue with a smaller community and work with us, learning a new career. And I had to teach her. I was showing her where paperwork went. She knows how to talk to people, and her heart was in the right place. So I remember thinking, so shortly after the time I had with her in field training, I was assigned to the Basic Training Academy as an instructor. Now it's 45 minutes away from our city, so I wasn't going to see her for a while because I was spending the next couple years at an off-site training facility. She stayed in patrol and enjoyed it. She did well. I never heard a bad thing about Officer Clara. It was always good stories, always positive. Everybody had great reviews for her, and everybody liked her. I want to hear one day if somebody had a bad story. I've never heard anybody say anything bad about her. She was amazing. So, going to the academy, and I was like, this really sucks because I'm not going to see this chick. She's awesome. We're not going to spend any time together. So lucky for me, she joined Honor Guard. Surprise, right? She fit right in. She looked so squared away, so sharp in that uniform. We get paid to hang out once a month for training. She fit right in, not arrogant at all, despite her years of service and experience. She was super organized. She had extra gear, pins, boots, shoes, always polished, everything, gig lines straight, everything looked so squared away, super sharp. Might have had a little crush on her too, right? So she always had so much hair gel into that I could apply my hair gel using the side of her head, all the gel in her hair. It always, no hair was out of place ever. It's outstanding. I'm still trying to match that. She had so much potential. She could have done anything she wanted to do. I might have been a little jealous. I had tried out for our SWAT team a couple times, years and years ago, and I never made it. She would have been our first female on the SWAT team. Had she wanted it and had she tried, she would have got it. She was badass, all right? She was G.I. Jane with a little less silicone. So shortly after she went into the community policing section, she joined that specialized unit while I'm at the academy, and I get to stay posted. I see her on social media. You see pictures hanging out with the kids, handing out turkeys around the holidays, ice cream from that little cart we got. It's great. She loved it. She was always smiling and always surrounded by kids, and everybody liked her. Shocker. She ended up getting sick. She went to chemo. Didn't let us slow her down. She continued to come back to work. Afterwards, she had a lot less hair, and she kept working. All right. I was impressed. She was determined. She's a hard charger. A little while later, she got sicker, and I regret not going to visit her. So I was pregnant at the time with our second child. I didn't think I could keep it together in front of her, and I didn't want her to see me get upset like today. I hope I can make up for it today by telling everyone else how much she meant to me and to us. Richie, stop sniffling. So I'm pregnant with our second child, end up letting our 4-year-old pick her first name. Both girls, all right? So second one, she picked the first name. I'm not gonna fight with a 4-year-old. You never win. Nikki made such an impression on us that I chose her middle name, my daughter's middle name, to be Nicole, after our friend Nikki. I'm hoping that child will be as kind, genuine, fierce, natural leader, amazing person as Nikki was. Maybe a little bit badass eventually too. So I think it worked. That our younger daughter is now 3. She last month at her daycare, the teacher tells me I go to pick her up, and she says, it was the sweetest thing. She said, your daughter, there was another kid that bit this little boy in the class, and your daughter went over and pulled her off of him and said, no, don't do that. We don't bite friends. She stutters too, so it's really cute. So I was like, no, don't do that. She said, no, don't bite our friends, and protecting him. She said she like shielded the little boy, protecting him and pulling him away from the girl that was biting him. And then my daughter ended up getting bit too. There might have been a couple tears, but they said she was fine. But that, I think it's working. I think that middle name is coming through. She is pretty ferocious at times. She has that protective vibe about her, and she wants to be just like me. She wants to be, she's like a natural leader in their classroom. She's friends with almost everybody in there. She still hasn't gotten bit since then. She's doing okay so far. So I hope to be a natural leader like Nikki as well. I'm kind of falling into it now. Last year, 2 years ago, they asked me to be one of our team leaders on our honor guard unit to fill in from others retiring and leaving the agency. And I know 100% they would have chosen Nikki before they chose me, although I had 12 years on at the time when she just started with us, I'm okay with it. She could have been my leader, no problem. I would have been fine with that. Definitely would have picked her first. So, sorry, one more story. One more story about some shoes, all right? I'm gonna bring those big feet back in here. So there was about last year or so, there was an event. I had to get some shiny shoes without these taps on them, all right, the core frame shoes. Well, my old pair were dry rotted. So I needed them the next day. And one of the sergeants tells me, he said, well, go check the uniform closet, see if there's any extras in there. Extras in there, right? So in that closet, I find a box, kind of rugged box. It's been used and banged up in a bag a little bit, but it has a gently worn pair of women's size 10 core frame shoes in there that we didn't issue. I'm pretty sure those were Nikki's. Pretty sure those were one of her extra shoes, one of her extra pairs of shoes. So I borrowed those. Don't tell anybody, but I don't plan on returning them. I'm literally trying to fill her shoes. Every day I put on this uniform, I'm trying to fill her shoes. Until I retire, I'm going to try and fill those shoes. When those crack too, I'm going to put those back in that box and I'm going to put them in my attic and hold on to them like the memories that we have. She meant so much to me and so much to us and each one of us that she met, and that somebody who knew her for just a couple years and only got to see her like once a month gave their child a name after her. That's how awesome she was. That's the impact she had on people. She was just so kind, professional, genuine. I mean, we did have some "that's what she said" jokes, but keeping it fun. Genuine, just kind-hearted, just the best person that we knew. To the LGBT Heroes Fund, thank you for the honor of speaking about my friend today. To her family, thank you for making her the way she was. Genuine, and thank you for sharing her with us. To those of you that did not know Nikki, I'm sorry you really missed out. She was a pretty amazing person. I am thankful for the time that we did have with her. Oh, I wish it was years and years more. Thank you.
Can I have Jeannie, Rickey join me on stage, please? She's going to tell us more about Nikki.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before I go into this, I'd just like to play a little bit off of what Andrea said. So Nikki and I wore the same size shoe also. I am, as you can see, a small, stout Irish girl, and my foot was a little wider, so anytime I stole them, she knew. I always heard a lot about that. So I'd like to begin by just thanking the LGBT Fallen Heroes Fund for celebrating the lives of our LGBT fallen heroes and loved ones. I'm especially thankful for the opportunity to share about my best friend and sister by another mother, Nicolette Clara. I'd also like to thank Nikki's mom, Louise Clara, for being here and allowing me to speak on behalf of the family. So Nikki and I were best friends for almost 3 decades. After Army basic and AIT training, Nikki and I met at our first permanent duty station, which is right down the road, Fort Belvoir, which some of you may be aware of. We were assigned to the 437th Military Police Department, or company. I was in supply, supporting weapons and logistics, and Nikki was a mechanic in the motor pool. And to this day, I wish I could tell you what made us click, but I really can't explain how a 3rd generation Irish Catholic round girl from the hills became best friends with an MMA, Krav Maga loving, fast talking chick from the city. but we just seamlessly integrated our lives together. During our time at Fort Belvoir, we were absolutely inseparable. Nick loved the water and sun, so she would constantly drag me to the beach and then lather me up with burn cream for the next 3 days. She hated the country, but every time we had leave, I would drag her back to the hills when I went home to see my family. She loved athletics, and I joined in because I loved her. We loved music of any kind, and we were both absolutely ecstatic when we were stationed in Europe because, of course, disco is still alive and well there. We loved to sing, we loved to dance, although it was a toss-up on which one of us were actually tone deaf. I firmly believe she was. Nick and I were all about tough love with each other. You know, you have to have one of those friends where you have no filters and you don't hesitate to set each other straight when that is needed. And this was never more apparent than when she came out to me. And as always happens in the military, I had orders come down first that transferred me from Belvoir to Germany. And Nick soon after went to Hawaii. Now this was back in the day, folks. No cell phones. We called each other weekly. We wrote letters to each other. And to this day, I can still picture I was on the second floor of my barracks in Germany on the payphone with Nick when she told me she was gay. And think about coming from the country where the closest town, the population was 251 people, okay? So this was really my first interaction with anyone that was gay. So I questioned her relentlessly. I mean, we were best friends. I could ask her anything I wanted. And I said, well, like, when did you know? Well, how did you figure it out? And I'm your best friend. Why didn't you tell me sooner? And I'll never forget her response to my last question about why she didn't tell me sooner. And she said, you know, I wasn't sure if you would still love me. To which I responded, and I hope it doesn't offend, but I said, I had no clue being gay made you stupid. I'm like, we always promised each other we would hide the bodies together. Nothing is going to make me stop loving you. So, as I tried to think of all the wonderful things to share with you about Nikki today, and I really would like to address that common sense statement because I can share some stories where I'm not sure, 3 decades ago you would have thought she had a lot of common sense. But 2 words come to mind when I think of her. The first word is sacrifice. And there are 2 definitions to sacrifice that I think really exemplify Nikki's life. And the first definition is something given up or lost. And the second meaning is a destruction or surrender for the sake of something else. Nikki served in the military during the inception of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, which was a topic of much discussion between us. We had both served with soldiers who came out that were ridiculed, humiliated, and in some cases subjected to extreme violence. Nikki didn't live in fear of being outed because she hid who she was behind a mask. She believed in so much in what she was doing in her service for the military, but had to hide the very essence of who she was. That denial and the paranoia of trying to hide her relationships, in my belief, took a real toll on her. When we would get together, it would take me days to break through the mask she wore in public so I could get to the Nikki that I knew and loved. She gave up so much personally and lost a bit of herself, all in sacrifice of what she felt was a greater good. The second word is service. And the dictionary defines service as the contribution to the welfare of others. Nikki was a highly decorated combat soldier who gave 20 years of service in the Army. 8 of those years served overseas, which included multiple conflicts, peacekeeping efforts, and war. Out of the many achievements that she has, 3 stood out for me. Nikki was one of the first women to ever earn the Level 3 certification in Army combatives. She again made Army history after being selected to serve as the first sergeant for an airborne infantry battalion forward support company in Vicenza, Italy, all which she led all pre-combat training for the company. She then served a 15-month combat tour in Afghanistan, beginning as the Brigade Support Battalion Support Operations Sergeant Major, coordinating and overseeing all personnel, equipment, and critical resupply moves in and out of the main theater Strategic Hub Air Base. After retiring as a first sergeant from the military, she served with the Alexandria Police Department. And I loved hearing her stories of what happened on the streets during her patrols. She was always on the night shift, and I remembered asking her why she would want to work nights. And in typical Nikki fashion, she replied, "The day shift is boring. The night shift gets all the action." She loved being a cop. She served all that knew her with everything she had to give because that's who she was. I can't think of a better definition of her service than contributing to the welfare of others. Nick was one of the strongest people I know, both in personality and purpose. She was a very, very private person, even more so during the military. And I was blessed to be allowed in her circle. Ironically, she would have hated the recognition today, but she would have appreciated it if something positive came out of it. Nikki didn't regret her sacrifice to serve, but she was also the type of person that would advise others to be you and to be happy. It takes a very strong person to sacrifice everything they are in service and contribution to the welfare of others. I admire and love Nikki even more for the hard choices she made in her life. But as the Out and Equal Executive Director Celeste Berry said, I believe that no one should ever have to choose between a career we love and living our lives with authenticity and integrity. I close by stating, my best friend and sister of my heart passed with the joy of knowing she had accomplished all she had set out to do in this world. But when I think of the mask she wore, I think of Ellen Page's words when she came out. In 2014, during a conference to promote the welfare of LGBT youth in Las Vegas, Page said, I am tired of hiding and I am tired of lying by omission. I suffered for years because I was scared to be out. My spirit suffered, my mental health suffered, and my relationships suffered. And I'm standing here today with all of you on the other side of all that pain. I am standing here today with all of you, and my hope for anyone living in that place of pain is that you also make it to the other side sooner rather than later. Be who you are, and those that truly love you will always love you. From the bottom of my heart and the Clara family, thank you for celebrating Nikki's life with us today. Thank you.